Sir, start, sir.
Okay, Venkatesh. Okay, good morning. So as we have been discussing in the last class with the concept of LFSR, the design of LFSR, and also we have been discussing with the uh, built-in self-test logic observer, block observer, right? So here in the unit 4, we have a other concept, which is said to be as an test per clock built-in self-test system. So that is what is this test per clock in the sense for each and every test operation, you'll be checking through a clock. Uh, what is the clock period? It is considered to check each and every pattern of sequences. Okay, or else if there is a set of faulties to be tested, what is the time of clock period it is occupied to define that period of time. Okay, so here in a test per clock built-in self-test, some new set of faults is tested during the every clock period. So one thing in the sense in this is, so a new set of faulties can be tested within this each and every clock period. Okay, the advantage of this built-in self-test is that the shortest possible pattern length, which may or may not be important. So that is what. So if there is a shortest possibility of pattern length, so shortest possibility in the sense, if you have one of the logical circuit with some number of gates, in that you will be finding out pseudo primary input output pattern, right? So you'll be making a which is said to be a shortest path with a faulty free output logic. So based on that operation, what you will do, the test per clock will be test per clock within the built-in self-test system. It is a main advantage to define the shortest possible pattern length. Okay, pattern length. And if you consider, let us take within one of the example. Okay, if I have an 10 million vectors of pattern sequences of built-in self-test, okay, which is operating with a speed of 200 megahertz, 200 megahertz. So what will be the testing time taken to occupy for each and every clock period? It is given as, so 10 million vectors I have taken here, 10 millions of vectors into 200 into the 10 to the power of 6. That is what 200 megahertz. So on calculating the multiple term of these two, the 10 millions into a time into the respective clock frequency, it gives the time period of each and every clock period, 0.05 seconds. Okay, 0.05 seconds. So based on the number of millions of vectors, the test patterns into the operating frequency I have taken, it gives the time period. Okay, it gives a time period for every clock, every tested clock. Okay, and however, a major issue of built-in self-test pattern length is fault simulation time. So we can also known as an actual fault coverage for built-in self-tested system from staggered fault simulation. So the major thing within the built-in self-test is you need to find out what was the set of pattern length. Okay, to define the fault simulation time. Why? Because it is a testing operation, right? Built-in self-test. So within this testing operation, what happen? You'll be depending upon the what is the time occupied to test each and every module, right? So if there is any faulties in that test pattern, so you need to identify what is the test pattern and test pattern length, and as well as what is the fault coverage. All these three should be identified basically. So for that case, it is a major issue to identify these three in the built-in self-test. That is what a fault coverage or also a test of patterns or a fault simulation time. It is a major issue to find out within the built-in self-test operation. So for that case, what happened? We have a fault coverage for built-in self-test system from Stuckert fault simulation. Okay, based on the Stuckert fault simulation, we can easily identify what is the fault coverage and number of fault is identified and what is the pattern length. Okay, and what is the time occupied for defining this built-in self-test operation. So it comes out with the concept of Stuckert fault simulation. Okay, based on the Stuckert fault simulation, you can easily define that a built-in self-test pattern length can be notified. The length computation time version as built-in self-test pattern sequences increases because the entire sequence must be simulated for good machine and all failing machines. Okay, so the length computation in the sense if it is of 8-bit length of built-in self-test patterns, a set of patterns we have. So you need to check on each and every bit within the built-in self-test pattern sequence. Okay, so that what happen, uh, it increases a set of pattern sequences and based on the entire sequence operated, each and every bit has to be simulated for a better system, for a better machine operation. If it doesn't do this each and every bit of operation within the test operation, so the system may be set for the failure operation. So that is what we say within the test per clock built-in self-test. And here we have two representations. So first one, the first clock represents an test per clock system. Okay, test per clock system with LFSR, which sends to an CUT, circuit under test, and from there to the MSIR. Okay, so MSIR, so maxed input scan register, serial register. Okay, so based on this operation, that is what LFSR sends to a circuit under test, and from there to the MISR. This is a one operation. We have a test per clock system. As the same way, large input count test per clock system. If you have a number of input set of patterns to be identified within the built-in self-test or test per clock system. So in that case, what happen? You'll be coming out for LFSR, and also we'll be having a shift register. All these are connected to the circuit under test, and from there to the MSIR. Okay, so you can see both the figure representations also given here. There are large number of primary inputs, so that feasible to apply LFSR to a subset of these inputs, and then serially shift most significant bit coming out of LFSR into a shift register to provide a pattern simulation for the remaining inputs. So what happen? You'll be having n number of inputs here. Why? Because if you have a content of LFSR, this LFSR will be sent to our shift register, so that you'll be having n number of inputs which is sent to the circuit under test operation. And from this circuit under test operation, what happen? You'll be sending to a MSIR. So to perform an XOR operation and to give the required shift operations, all that cases will be represented here. So the saving of test hardware is extremely minor. The shift register portion of the circuit has the same flip-flop hardware as LFSR, but it lacks the few XOR gates used from the LFSR feedback network. So based on the testing hardware operation, what happened? So to check when you come out with the hardware section, what happened? Each and every testing operation takes a major problem in checking each and every unit. So to have a saving of that test hardware operation, what happened? So you'll be using a shift register portion of circuit has a same flip-flop hardware, okay, as a LFSR, and it uses a minimum. It uses a lack of XOR gates, a minimum number of XOR gates to define the LFSR feedback network. So this is sort of one thing we say within the test per clock system, built-in self-test system. The next concept, we come out with the test per scan built-in self-test system. Okay, so test per scan built-in self-test system. So what is this test per scan in a sense? As we have discussed in the previous session, let me show you here. So if you see within this, when you are going to perform a shift operation from the LFSR, each and every scan operation is going to drive for each and every clock signal, right? Okay, you can see here based on the time clock cycle, all the scan inputs are taken, and we have set for the LFSR and defined the seed operation, right? So see here also in the concept of test per scan built-in self-test. Okay, so it identifies a new set of faulties that is tested, requires one clock to conduct the test and as a series of shift of this scan chain to complete this that test and read out all the test results. So what happened? The test per scan in the sense, firstly it sets what were the faulties in the test operation. Okay, once after checking out with the faulties in the test operation, what happen? It requires a clock signal, one clock signal to conduct a test of series of shifts operation. Why? Because each and every flip-flop is going to shift the bit content from one flip-flop to the other flip-flop, right? It shifts the data content. So within that scan chain operation, within that shift scan chain operation, what happened? It has to complete the read, test and read operations and give the required output for all the test results. So the complete operation will be done in one clock cycle itself. Okay, the shift operation and the read operation and the test operation should be represented within of one clock cycle itself. Okay, so that's the reason it requires one clock to conduct a test and a series of shifts of a scan chain. Okay, and next one, test per scan therefore takes a significantly more time than the test per clock method to detect the same number of faulties in the given circuit. So what is the difference between this test per scan and the test per clock in the sense? So it requires more number of time clock signals and most of time to define the faulties in the circuit within the test per scan operation. So here you can see the examples. Okay. So as I have said, we have different modes of operations in the LFSR, right? So you can see here, we have already discussed in the BI-LBO, where we have a B1, B2 modes or 00, 01, 10, and 11. Okay. So based on these modes, we are going to operate that LFSR mode or shift operation mode or serial scan chain mode or MSIR response compactor. So we are going to define that operation, right? So now in the test per scan operation, okay. So now you can see here the first block when the B1 and B2 are set to be 0, 1. Okay, 0, 1. So when it is 0, in essence, it sets active low here. Okay, active low operation. And when it is 1 for the B1, it takes a scan chain operation basically. Okay, scan chain. Sorry, when it is 0, B2 is set to be 0. It gives a scan chain operation. Both are 0 in essence, scan chain. When 0, 1 is there, it is for LFSR mode. Okay, LFSR mode. That is what it performs an shift mode operation. Okay. So in a LFSR mode, what happened to define this LFSR mode? What happened? We'll be taking an 0 and 1. Okay. So this is going to define an based on the clock signal and as well as a scan input. Okay. If the scan input is 0 and the clock signal is high or low, so based on these operations, what happened? It is going to define LFSR shift mode operation. So it depends upon the signal of a 0 and 1 itself. Okay, the logic inputs of a 0 and 1 of B1 and B2. As the same way, we have a 1 0. If you have a B1 and B2 are set to be 1 0. Okay, 1 0 in the sense B1 is 1. That is what it is set to be active high, and B2 is set to be 0. Okay, 0. That is what. So here it drives a 0 and 0. The scan chain operation is not enabled. Okay, scan chain operation is not enabled. It performs only a D flip-flop mode operation. Okay, it gets the data content what is present within that flip-flops. It is going to drive as an output in. Okay, drive as an output from that flip-flop. It updates the data content of Q1, Q2, Q3, and so on up to a Q1. Okay, but in the LFSR, what happened? It performs a shift operation. Okay, it performs a shift operation. You can see here a block black notation which is representing a dark notation for a shift operation for each and every flip-flop. Okay, there is a clock signal. From the clock signal, it is going to read the respective output of each and every output of an Q1, Q2, and so on within that flip-flop outputs. And now, one more thing is we have one more mode which is said to be MSIR mode. Okay, so in the MSIR mode, the logics of input B1 and B2 are said to be 1 and 1. Okay, 1 and 1. So when these both are said to be 1 and 1, what happens? It performs an mixed. That is what muxed. The muxed signal will be active so that it performs an shift operation. That is what LFSR operation with scan mode also. Okay, with scan register mode also. Okay, it performs both the operations. That is what it performs an shift operation and as well as an scan mode operation for the applied input data. Okay, it gives up output responses for all the sequence of outputs. Okay, Q0, Q1, and up to Qn. It gives the data. So that's what the difference. When you have 1 and 1, it performs an MSIR mode operation. Okay. So one problem we have within this test per scan system is, so usually a new set of circuit input pattern is generated using a pseudo random or exhaustive techniques. So as we know that we have already discussed with the pseudo random and exhaustive techniques. Okay, so it requires a new circuit input pattern. Why? Because if you have a circuit input pattern, what happens? It is easy to test the circuit either where it is having a faulty, where it is said to be a faulty free output circuit can be represented. Okay. So, however, because of the input pattern or a time shifted repeated to the circuit through the scan chain, the pattern becomes correlated. So, in fact, if we require a set of input pattern from the circuit operation also, the input pattern is shifted based on the time shift operation and repeated through the complete circuit. Okay, through the complete circuit, and through the scan chain, and patterns becomes correlated. So all the patterns can becomes correlated. Thus, in turn, reduces the pattern effectiveness for fault detection. So very frequently, it is necessary to provide an input network of XOR gates to phase shift input and decorrelate them. So in this, what happened? The pattern of effectiveness of fault detection is very frequent, and the necessary provide input network of XOR gates. So why? Because